I'll talk to the camera to start, though. Hey, camera. This is the Fireside Tattoo Podcast. Which one do you want me to look at? Hey, I'm Jake from the Fireside Tattoo Podcast. We're here at Hell City. This is day 3, our final day, and we're honored to be here with Della, Vedova. And I've looked forward to this ever since she said, yeah, let's do it. Somebody's calling me right here. Ty Pilata calling me in the middle of the show. Can you believe that? Do what?
I better turn mine off.
You better turn him. He just said he just got back to our booth and everything is gone because I left it. I left our booth empty. It's a joke, I think. I hope. Anyways, pardon the interruption. Go to tattooimprovement.com and keep up with where we're going and what we're doing. But let's dive in, man. I'm really excited about talking to you. I'm a little bit. We had a nice long hot tub conversation last night. And anytime that happens and we talk about a lot of interesting things, I end up trying to recreate it in the show, and without fail, it bombs. It never works. So let's not even try. Let's just meander and see what happens.
See what today brings.
Yeah, exactly.
Right
so you're tattooing out of San Diego. It's funny, before we started rolling, you were talking about kind of the different vibes in different cities, L.A. and San Francisco and San Diego. What is a San Diego like style of tattooing? What if you had to like pin it down?
It's definitely becoming a lot more diverse now. But I think if I had to pin it down, I think in the obviously 90s, moving into the early 2000s, it was kind of the poppy, new school stuff was big. And I mean, heck, I probably had a lot of reason for that. I mean, in those years, I was one of the most well-known, still well-known, but there was just not many tattooers in San Diego back then. And that's what I was doing. So everyone starts doing that stuff. And that wasn't just me, but a few of us. And for whatever reason, that vibe definitely became the vibe of San Diego. And now it's really, we got Justin Hartman down there doing his thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful work.
And
is he in just a private space, or where does he work?
It's the Grand Reaper, I think it's the name of the spot. I haven't been there yet, but I think it's like a little smaller spot 3 station thing. It's kind of him and 2 other guys.
Huh. And Guru, on the other hand, is pretty giant, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I started Guru 15 years ago. It was 5 booths, and it took off really fast and big, and it's a 2-story building, so eventually we had people living upstairs. I ended up buying the building. I'm like, well, I just had great tattooers that wanted to keep working for me. I had the other guys that wanted to come on board, and so I just expanded up there, put 5 more, so we have 10 stations there. Yeah. That went on for a decade, and then the same challenge arose where I've just got these rad guys that want to come work with me, and I want to work with them, but I don't have the space. So eventually the pressure got to the point where I opened a second location, 10 stations there. Right now we're probably housing about 18, 19 resident artists.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's your role in managing that? Or does it self-manage, or is it just booth rentals and everyone deals with everything? I mean,
I like that term, self-manage.
it's
dreaming.
I pulled that out of the air.
No, I mean, in the early years, I managed everything, I mean, I should actually mention my wife. She has always run the back end. I mean, all my banking, all my accounting, all the technical stuff. My job's always been hiring artists, managing, inspiring, shop drama, whatever. I do all that. But about 8 or so years in, we got a pretty stout manager that really took the reins pretty well. He had to leave a few years ago, and I've got a new manager now who he does most of it. Not much of it goes past him, gets to me. I mean, I'm constantly trying to build that firewall. My goal is to get. I've always been into my tattooing. I take it very seriously, and I tattoo a lot. After I'm 21 years in the game, and I'm still tattooing heavy, and I still have a lot to express, and I want to complete a certain amount of work in this next 10 years. And I know in order to do that, I have to be released from the bonds of managing that shop. Yeah. So I carve out a sizable amount of money, and I shovel it over to somebody that can handle that for me. So it's pretty good. So we got a general manager. I've got a marketing guy that we have full-time now. Yeah. Does all our social media and website tuning and all that stuff, advertising. And then, of course, at the office, I got my wife and her assistant and accountant. They're doing that. So it's just that's 2 years. It's finally becoming a thing where I'm like, okay, I can come in and just work on my tattoos. I'm not bogged down by all this extra stuff, Yeah. But still, there are those weeks where I'm like, shit, am I really still typing emails? I was supposed to come in my studio and draw today. Yeah. It's been 4 hours, and I haven't even cleared my inbox, I don't know how. I guess most tattooers have that issue.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like most tattooers probably aren't as. I don't know how many tattooers could efficiently run a shop of 18 to 20 artists. I think that the idea of building processes and systems and having the type of discipline that it takes to make something that size run efficiently where you can focus on your drawing, it's not instilled in most tattooers that we run across
I get that. I mean, I've known enough over the years, and not many of them are built to do both roles. I, for some reason, can and have, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'd rather just be an artist. And the older I get, the more that craving, it gets stronger and stronger. And I told my wife the other day, I'm like, help me more. I'm burning out. I want to paint. I want to draw. I want to tattoo. My soul is speaking to me, and I need to honor that. And she's helping. She's stepping up her role, and everyone's pitching in. And I'm kind of setting that vibe at the shop, too. Like, hey, everybody, free me. Like,
this is your shop too.
Right. Yeah. And let me, my biggest asset to all of you guys is for me to do rad tattoos. Mm-hmm. It's going to make our brand stronger. It's going to attract attention. You're going to be busier because of it.
Yeah.
It's why you all say you came to work here, is to work alongside me. Yeah. So quit bogging me down with the day-to-day bullshit and let me do it. And I think that the crew is kind of tuning into that. Like, let's let this guy do his thing and quit pestering him with petty things, So, but it took 15 years of preaching it and visualizing it and trying to, and it's sort of happening now. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very happy about that.
You mentioned you mentioned 10 years. You want to carve out a lot of work for this next 10 years. Do you do you think in blocks like that? Do you say, I have last night we were talking about a back piece that you had done that I saw on your apprentice, and you were like, well, that's kind of, I forget the term you used, but like that's where I am right now. And it seems to me, just the little bit that we've talked, you're goal oriented, and are you the type of person that sets something out for 5 or 10 years and says, this is where I think I'm headed. This is where I think I want to be. This is why I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I seem to always, by my nature, I've always sort of have this like 5-year and a 10-year thing always happening in my brain. Of course, I have my week to week and day to day. That stuff seems to happen without. That's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
My appointments are in the book. Whatever other stuff I've got to go do, that's in the book. That's happening. I don't really have to visualize that. That's going to happen tomorrow. But seeing me, the me in 5 years, and then the me in 10 years, I don't go beyond 10 for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't seem like a thing. We'll figure out the next 10 when I get into this.
Right.
But yes, and for whatever reason, I'm kind of entering. I can feel a new chapter opening up for me. Probably because I opened that second location 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it would everything would smooth out at Guru in a year.
Yeah.
And it took 3. And now it's very smooth. Everything's under control. And it seems like, okay, new chapter. Yeah. So my mind is definitely on the next decade. Yeah. I'm 46, so I'm kind of targeting the 56 range. Like at 56, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And what does it all look like?
Yeah.
And that's where my head's at right now.
Yeah. Do you know what that looks like right now?
A little bit. I'm defining it right now. But a lot of it, like I said before, is my tattooing. I hate to limit myself and say I'm not going to tattoo after the next 10 years, but I'm playing it that way. Right. I'm going to assume in 10 years my hands aren't going to work as well as I want them to. My eyes aren't going to work. Something might break. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll break before that. But I'm assuming at this point I got 10 in me.
Yeah.
I feel like a tattoo at max levels for 10 more years. So if that's really the thing, then I've got to really be smart, especially when I'm doing really taking on some really big stuff right now, like back, butt, thighs, ankles, chest, I've got, so those projects, those are 2-year, 3-year to finish sometimes projects. So I don't know. I'm just trying to line those up and plan on getting as many as I can of those done in the next decade.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what I'll do after that. I don't know.
I would imagine that really helps making those day-to-day decisions as far as what projects you're willing to take on, what clients you'd like to work with, shop management. Taking that 10-year approach, I would imagine really helped you to clarify, like, does this, during this consultation, where does this fit in that grand scheme?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, and this is no secret. Anybody out there that's reading self-help, Dale Carnegie type stuff, that's how it works, right? Yeah. You set your trajectory here. Once you clarify that, the answers to all the miniature questions that get you there you kind of answer them. It comes back this way. If you don't know where this is, how do you answer the small questions? You don't know where you're going. You're lost.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely. And it's, so yeah, anybody out there is trying to achieve some stuff.
Yeah, I do a thing in Toronto 4 times a year. It's a mastermind group called Strategic Coach, and the guy that founded it, his name is Dan Sullivan. He's in his early mid-70s now. Really, really interesting guy. But he sets everything he commits to. He makes a 25-year commitment on, and at 72, 73, he's just sat down with his crew and said, "This is my next 25 years."
Wow.
In his 70s, and you were talking about up to 10, but there's. Whatever the time frame is, he struck me at 25 as someone planning 25 years when they're already in their 70s, kind of like put me on my heels a little bit. But when you say something like that out loud, whenever you say like, this is what we're going to do, this is what my team and I are going to do, or this is where my life is going to be, and thus my business and everything else. So if you guys are on board, this is what we're going to do for the next 25 years. You do a couple of things, I guess. You clarify those goals. It makes it easier to make day-to-day decisions, but you also take those immediate pressures off of yourself. You know what I mean? I've got those all the urgent things kind of go away when because you're like, well, there's still 18 years left in this 25-year block. We're chipping away at this thing, and this is where we're going to be.
Yeah, knowing where you're going is it kind of relaxes you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk for a second. We hit on. I know I said I wasn't going to bring up hot tub talk, but I'm going to. We hit a little bit on last night your ideas on kind of bedside manner, dealing with your clients, the relationship that you form, especially on the large scale stuff that you're doing, and how we both, I think, kind of agreed that some of that is lost on some of the younger tattoo generation when they're very strict about. I don't know. Everything is cut and dry. There's not a lot of interaction. I'm 1,500 a day. That's what it is. This is what I do. Take it or leave it. Kind of mentality. Talk a little bit maybe about if you just want to walk through from a consultation through a tattoo with someone. What's your mindset? What do you?
Well, there's two. I mean, my process is one thing. And I can go into that in a minute. How I book my clients. And all that. And maybe I'll just start there, and then after that, I'll talk more about how important I think that what you're talking about is. But as far as just the technical process for me and how I book, it's basically email. I tell everybody to email me, and then I have a bunch of letters I've already pre-written that if it's something I can't do or maybe it's not right for me, there's this email that gets copy pasted and sent out, and of course I try to figure out where they're headed and maybe give a recommendation to someone else at the shop that would be better to do it. And then if it's something that's like that could work, then I've got this kind of questionnaire email that goes out, which is like, okay, this is sounding about right. Tell me a little bit more. I want to know, their age, their weight, I want to know basically what I'm dealing with. Oh, I got, are you 70 years old and 350 pounds, or are you 22? A little bit of it is fishing on an economic level,
right?
Because you get these emails. It's like, I love your work. I want you to cover my chest to my ankles. Yeah. Okay, tell me about yourself. Oh, I'm a 22-year-old college student studying. I'm like, okay, so you have a trust fund? How's this? I'll flat out ask, how are you going to pay for that? So I'm just kind of weeding it out to make sure I get down to the people that are going to be able to handle what we're about to do. Sometimes I'll lead to a phone call where I'm like, let's just talk. I want you to really understand what you're saying, because it's a big deal to do a 90-hour, 100-hour project, So I'll do all that. Eventually, we get down to some people that everything checks out. They go into a little list I keep, and then I book myself in 6-month increments. So I'll take a 6-month chunk. I'll book all my existing clients, and then there'll be holes after I book them, and I'll fill those holes with new clients. It's usually 4 or 5 new clients. Well, 6 months, maybe 7 new. I don't know, 5 to 10 new clients will drop into that, because most of them are just repeat new projects. They're existing clients starting new projects. And then that's that. And then as I get close to the end of that gap, I leapfrog out 6 more months. So that's kind of my process.
But with these people, especially you're talking about existing clients that are adding and building and things like that. What about kind of the relationships that you formed with those people? Do you feel like moving away from like the practical, like moving
into that other stuff?
How do you the design because you look at your work and a lot of times I can look at what people are doing. I can say, oh, they're really paying attention to this style, to this other person. Sometimes you can see literally who they're pulling from, but then there are a handful of people like yourself that you look at and you go like, wow, that guy, he's really doing his own thing there. I'm not real sure where all that stuff comes from. How involved are your clients in the decision-making process? Is it mostly, are most of the decisions just up to you and they say, yeah, I trust you?
I mean, my basic mojo is just to say to them, look, give me a body, give me the area. You know, where are we? What do you want covered? After you've given me that, give me a theme. And you can give me specifics. I mean, if there's some specific subject matter you need to see in there, then let's hear it. And I'll try to work with it. So and then of course I have the guys that are like, what do you want to do? And I'll go down that road too if you want.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy more people giving me a little bit of direction. I feel like it develops the connection. Yeah. You know, I mean, every artist is like, I would just love it if everyone just let me do anything I want. And that I get why they say that, but there's some kind of magic a little bit lost, you know, when a guy shows up and you're like, I decided to do a dragon or whatever. I don't know if does he want a dragon? I don't know. I mean, he's probably, I mean, at certain level in tattooing, you got these people who are just going to take it anyway. Yeah. But did he want one? Yeah. You know, I want to know that you want this. I want to know that it's really making you super pumped and you're stoked. So I kind of want, and that's why I'm more about like emotional themes. Like, what do you want to express here? Is this like a rebirth? Are you entering a new chapter in your life? Are you, do you have a life of strife? Like I have a doctor I'm tattooing. He just got out of med. What do they call that when the doctors do the
residency?
Residency,
yeah.
Which is, from what I hear, brutal. I mean, these guys, it's like Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So he's got me doing the myth of Sisyphus, which is a Greek god, or Zeus punished this guy by making him push a boulder up a hill. And every time he gets to the top, it rolls back down. He has to push it up again because he was a king and he was an arrogant guy, so this is his punishment. Whatever. The point is, this means a lot to him. He just went through a situation like that. And he didn't tell me how to draw it, you know, where to put anything. He just said, do my back, butt, thighs, Sisyphus. Yeah. Okay. I go to study it, and I come up with my thing, and I do my thing. That's my favorite way to go.
Yeah.
And it does, I feel like there's a little more of an emotional connection that I want to be a part of, you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
Our old co-host on this show, he's really established in Memphis, and people would come in all the time and just say, I just want something that you want to do. And his response is always like, I promise you don't want what's in my head. You have no interest in getting tattooed the stuff that I would just draw.
Yeah, like, that's a good way to shut that down.
Right. Yeah.
Really? You want whatever I do? I'm into wieners and
right.
And I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Tumbleweeds.
Exactly.
I'm visualizing a wiener severed in a tumbleweed. We good?
Yep. Sweet. Deposit. Talk. I want to run just a little bit into some drawing related stuff. How's your time split between tattooing and drawing, painting? What mediums are you working in outside of tattooing?
Well, okay. So I tattoo 3 days a week. I draw. Or I'm in my studio at home 2 days a week. So it adds up to This is new, by the way. I feel a little guilty even saying it, you know, but it has been 20 years, and I do own a couple big shops, and I can afford to tattoo less. And I wanted it that way because I want the projects I'm working on, I want the time to really dive deep on those projects and work color theory. And for me, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but when I'm tattooing 5 days a week with this stuff, I found myself just, you know, flying by the seat of my pants on some of this stuff. You're like, you don't have time to work out a color theory. You're working for tattooing 5 days a week.
Right.
And so you go in and just do your best. And then when you get done, you're like, well, I wish I would have, I could have done, So the new schedule that I really like is, 3 days of tattooing. They're big days, usually one client, but 6 hours, 7, maybe 8-hour sessions. And then 2 days drawing. Yeah.
Yeah. Are most of your drawings for tattoos?
They are. I mean, and then what I'll do is, Guru always has once every 2 years a very large. We try to do a big art show, like something huge. I mean, the last one we did was our last Commitment 2, which is our bodysuit show, which is, every artist at the shop does a 6 foot tall full bodysuit rendering, mostly watercolor. Some guys use some other stuff, but mostly watercolor paintings. And so when those shows are coming up, I will I'll block out I won't work much for a month, basically. I'm not going to be the guy anymore that's like tattooing his balls off and then I got a wife and 2 kids too. So and then coming home and then it's 2 a.m. and I'm out. And, a lot of this stuff is just to keep off bad habits. I mean, the only way I've found sometimes to get through those moments is like eating, a Vicodin and drinking a bottle of wine so I can paint till 4 a.m. And I've done that. And by the way, everyone that's listening, I don't do that anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's helped me on those pinch moments. But the reason I take the time off now is to do what I have to do in a healthier way.
Yeah.
So taking the time to.
It seems like you've mentioned a couple of times over the last couple of days that you've kind of taken a more, well, not just a healthier lifestyle, but a more spiritual approach just to your life in general. Do you find that you've not religious, spiritual, but just like more introspective approach on your
I mean,
life?
I've always been a very introspective person. I read philosophy a lot. For lack of a better word, I'm not a Buddhist, but I follow the guidelines of Buddhism pretty closely. And it's weird how, it's like when I was young, I always visualized there would be a guru that come into my life, and that never happened for me. But it's just interesting that I named my shop Guru Tattoo. I just thought it sounded cool, and I was sort of into Buddhism. I'm like, oh, it kind of fits me a little bit. And now it's been 15 years, and I have a guru. It is my shop. Yeah, I mean, it's my teacher because it pressures me in ways that forces me to think about myself and be more and more honest with myself about what I'm really doing, the actions I'm executing, and what results that's creating, and all that inward reflection to maximize my shops have forced me to grow and forced me to face things about myself that I now know, hey, that you were bullshitting yourself. That was a lie. You weren't the nicest guy yesterday. You could have said more inspiring words to your crew. You could have been less judgmental. All that stuff that's coming, which is the stuff a guru would teach you, is coming out of my shop and my marriage and my kids. Of course, those are anyone with a wife and kids knows those. You want some teachers. You want to learn. You want to grow spiritually. Get married, have some kids.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. How old are your kids?
I have a 29-year-old son.
Oh, wow.
From a high school pregnancy situation.
Yeah.
He went for adoption. We reconnected a decade, 10 years ago.
Really?
He moved to San Diego. We're close. I mean, we're just like best. He's my best friend in the world. And it's a super blessing in my life.
That's really interesting.
It was really cool.
Who initiated the reconnection?
He did. Yeah. It was, how did it go down? The girl that had the baby had sent him a photo at some point when he was a young teenager, and on the back was my name. So he just kind of hung on to it, and then when he turned 18, he Googled me. And, I think that might be my dad. So wrote me an email. And I told my wife, who I've been with for 15 years now, be ready. We might meet this person. And it's so cool to see. I mean, I think they're tighter than me and him.
Really?
Oh, they're so in love. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So he's a...
Does he draw?
No. I mean, it's funny. A couple times we'll be sitting around and he'll whip out a little drawing, and I'm like, dude, you can draw. And he's like, oh. You can just tell it's not his... Something in him doesn't want to go that direction.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He probably could, but he doesn't want to. He collects. I've done his whole front. I just started a sleeve on him a week ago for his birthday.
Oh.
And he's cool. And then I've got a 11-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a 7-year-old son, so we're kind of in the same boat there on that side of it.
Yeah.
Let's we'll transition just a little bit. How far in are we? I don't want to run forever and take up your whole day. He has a massage. I don't want to. If I intrude on that, man.
I've been tattooing, and these are nice compared to the chairs we got down there.
Why aren't these downstairs,
I
man?
know.
These are so much nicer.
Dude, I need that massage.
Are we? How long? Oh, good. We're solid. Talk a little. One thing that stands out besides just your the way that you draw is your color palette. To me, it seems like you're real experimental in your color, I see some consistencies in it, but a lot of the combinations are really unique and they stand out to me, even in in my Instagram feed. I'm like, oh, it's crazy looking. What is that something that you experiment with a lot, or do you just tend to find what works? And
I mean, I've always felt like my color theory. I feel I don't know. I feel like I'm just Just learning. I don't even feel like I understand it. You know, I don't have any formal training. I haven't read any books on it. Probably should have. I'm just experimenting. Yeah. But it's funny how many people compliment me on my color theory, and I just feel like, really? Am I doing it right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But obviously at this point, something right is happening in there somewhere. And but lately, it's funny. I kind of felt like this new chapter I was talking about the next 10 years. I'm looking at my last 20, and I'm like, you can see these repeating patterns in my color theory. So recently I got a sponsorship from Eternal on purpose because I reached out to a few of the bigger brands and said, look, because my palette before was some really old school stuff, and I hand blended everything and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I love those inks, and I can trust those inks because I've used them for so long. I know what they do and everything else. But again, I see these patterns. So for me, at 20 years tattooer, I'm trying to break up stuff. This year I've changed everything. I got a whole new palette through Eternal, which I'm loving. It just makes, like yesterday, a weird thing happened where I was going to do the leaves on this peony. I had the inks out that I thought were going to build like a grass green, yellow green. And instead, for whatever reason, I have to go look what I was using. It ended up being this almost melony type green. It was just a happy accident. I used it. I love it. It's it's different. I've never even used that color before. Now it's in the tattoo. And that happened because I have this new palette, right?
Yeah.
Those palettes are a little scary because when you see a 5-year tattooer with 100 bottles of ink, I've seen people get into trouble with that because it's too much, you know. But I think for me, I've done it long enough where I'm not going to get silly with every bottle, you know.
Yeah.
But I do like looking up at that wall and seeing them all and going, well, I normally would use that. But look at that one. It's similar to that. It's just subtly different, you know.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I've got a new little change in my work, you know.
Yeah. Do you document, working on these large-scale pieces, do you document what you're using on an individual tattoo?
Yeah, I got to now because I got all these existing guys coming in, and they're on my old palette.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this thing where I'll if I use my new palette, I'll line the bottles up, and I'll take a picture of it. And then I have a file on my phone. I dump that in with the client and his pictures. So whenever I have a client, I open that folder, and I'm like, okay, and if there's new inks I was using, it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to take notes basically.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the only way to work that way and experiment. I still use a fairly simple palette and mix a lot just for that reason because I want to make sure that I don't run. I'll introduce something new from time to time, but then I'm always afraid I'll be in the middle of a piece and then I'll realize like, oh shit, I was using that honeydew in this and I'm out of that. I don't even have that anymore. So that's why I still kind of use a fairly simplistic palette, but that's a great way a real simple way to snap a photo.
Yeah, snap a photo, and you know, I think on the iPhone they have those. You can create albums.
Yeah.
So all my clients have an album.
Yeah.
And in that album is pictures of the last time I tattooed them, picture of any new ink I was using, the sketches, everything I've done with that client. Every photo I've ever taken of that client's in that folder.
Yeah.
And when that project's done, I'll delete the folder, you know, because you can't store everything, and then move on
to the next one. Yeah. We talked a little bit about clientele last night, and you know, some people, you mentioned Justin Hartman tattooing like 60-70% tattooers. You tattoo a lot of higher income, whatever, stockbrokers, doctors, whatever. But you do tattoo some pretty well-known tattooers. You just did Russ Abbott's.
Yeah,
back.
I tattoo a share of tattooers, and it's always such a honor when that happens. Sure. It's flattering.
Yeah.
But my overall, you know, I always tell people, look, man, you're going to end up tattooing you. So what are you? Because there's your, you know, I have these younger guys that are like, my clients are, I'm not going to name any names, but it'll be a guy like, my clients are they're such dicks, and it's always a dick saying it. Like, yeah, they're you. They're just like you. Yeah. So if you want better clothes, you know, look at yourself. What are you? Because naturally people like you sort of find you.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm a yuppie. I didn't know that.
Oh.
But I am, because all my clients are my boys at the shop are just like, you know, every car, it's like if a Beamer pulls up, they're like, that's Aaron's client, you know.
Right.
But I mean, whatever. I don't really care if they're yuppies or doctors or tattooers. I don't care. I just want to do great work and people that respect it is kind of shifting though. In this last 2 years, I'm seeing more, I don't know what happened, but more tattooers are coming through. Maybe I've become more recognized in some way, but more tattooers are coming through for sure.
Yeah. And I guess it seems to me that kind of ebbs and flows. I was talking with Jeff Ensminger not too long ago, and he was talking about how he said 4 or 5 years ago, he tattooed almost all tattooers, and almost all of them traveled. Like he had he's in Austin, and almost none of his clientele was from Austin. And then he hit the road, I think, for a year or two and traveled, and he came back, and he's like, I probably haven't tattooed a tattooer in a year, and now I'm trying to build a clientele in Austin, and all they get are these real traditional Americana tattoos, and it's not really what I do. And it's like, and it can instantly kind of seems like a switch can flip, and it can turn into a crisis. You're like, oh shit, I thought I was smooth sailing, tattooing, tattooers, people were traveling all the time, and then and then it flipped off.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what to say about that, but it's interesting to hear that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wonder. I've heard a handful of tattooers that. Whenever you said you're starting to tattoo more tattooers, that's what made me think of it. I wonder if that's just something that you notice over time, just kind of ebbs and flows, where you're like, I used to really do a lot of this kind of stuff, and then it went away. I don't know what happened.
Not for me. No, my clients have always been non-tattooers, almost really solidly that way for most of my career. Obviously, I always end up tattooing the guys that work with me a lot. Those guys. Yeah. But recently, like I said, last couple of years, it's a lot more tattooers are emailing, wanting to start projects. Yeah.
I wanted to hit on your apprentice, Eric was talking about a piece that you were starting to rework from the 90s, and you had a lot of 90s tattoos. And
Robin King, Solo Kill, at Solo Kill Instagram. Really, she does really great work, by the way.
Oh,
really nice person as well.
Where is she at? Where's she out of?
Chicago at Speakeasy Tattoo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the this idea of going back in, we've had this talk with Nick. You guys might remember it about going back into older tattoos and doing reworks, and maybe like how to approach them. Do you necessarily need to rework the whole thing? How do you use them? And this sounds like a project on Solo Kill that might be a really interesting experiment.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. I don't really take on much cover-up reworking stuff. Not that I'm above it, or I don't want to seem hoity-toity, but I just have all these fresh projects that need my time, so I can't allow that stuff through. It would just bog me down, and I couldn't finish this guy's back piece so I just don't do much of any of that. But when she emailed me, it intrigued me because, one, she reminded me of my era. I mean, I don't know exactly when she started collecting, but it had to be around when I started collecting, because I could just tell by the work on her arms, like, oh, that's 90s. That's from 92 to 2000. I know what they did, and that's what they did. And it's not the greatest stuff, and she's got stuff on top of stuff, and not much black. So it's kind of new school on top of new school, not much black. So, and she actually pitched the idea. She sent a sketch and everything, and I saw her version of it, and I was like, oh, I think it would work. And the idea with her project is simply just to do very large filigree shapes, and she's doing both sleeves, full chest, and full front. This whole thing it's a pretty massive.
Is she pretty tattooed in that all over?
Yeah, I mean, she has a huge gap. I think her chest is done by Corey Flatmo. Some nice birds. Okay. We're going to go beneath those, but then as we come down, actually, there's no old tattoos that'll shine through on her front. It's that same filigree is going to drift all over here or something. Okay. But all the arms from here down are completely solid with old work, and that work will shine through the filigree parts, so everything behind the filigree, solid black. The filigree itself, the old tattoos come through, will shade up into it a little, and at the end, you'll see the old work coming through, And I have it illustrated on my iPad. It's kind of hard to visualize, but if you see it, it works.
I can visualize it. It sounds really, really interesting. Not knowing what the old tattoos look like, but especially if they're kind of light and washy and don't have a lot of black, anyways, where they really can serve as the light, area of the design. Yeah. I wonder if that. I'm always kind of curious about trends will start to pop up, and you start to see things.
Well, this trend I think is popping up. I mean, I don't think this idea is my invention. I've seen some stuff similar to this. I think this filigree take we're doing, I don't know if I've seen that quite yet, but you're right. I think it is going to start becoming a thing. Yeah,
because a lot of people have 90s tattoos. I have a lot of them, and I'm stuck with a bunch of 90s tattoos too. So
me too.
Yeah, I'll be following that project. I'm really interested to see how that goes. We were talking a little bit last night about the idea of just doing reworks and things like that, and having the discipline to kind of leave some of that stuff alone and say, okay, a lot of this stuff fell out. My tendency would be to go back and punch it back up. But what if we just started, what if we thought about this thing as a foreground, middle ground, background, and we kind of used a little atmospheric perspective, and we get an effect using that old piece that we literally couldn't do. Like if we wanted to, we couldn't make it happen now.
Right.
That's it does take a little discipline and like forethought, I guess, because you get in there and you hit that first line and it jumps forward so much you're like, oh, I need to do that to all of them.
Right. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you commit
Right.
yourself to the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. We're entering. So many people got so much tattooing. It's starting. I don't know when it started, but I feel like in the '90s on, it's like everyone started just going ape shit.
Yeah.
And now here we are. Almost 20 years later.
Yeah.
And now a new era is opening up. Now lasers, of course, are becoming bigger, bigger, bigger. A lot of people are just zapping them all down and getting new work.
Yeah.
But there's other things happening too, and this is one of them. These like, what do we call it? There's probably a hashtag we should come up with on this.
Probably so.
What's a smash over? Or somebody
Smash
had
over? That's good.
Somebody used a term. I was like, oh, that's the hashtag.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure there already is one. We're too old to
Yeah.
a hashtag. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, absolutely. If you are you taking on any new projects right now? If people wanted to,
Yeah,
reach
I'm
out?
always. I never I never say my books are closed
Okay.
because they aren't. I mean, I'm always looking and hunting for the next thing that I'm like, yes, I want to do that. So, if you're interested, people are interested, just email me and let me know what you're wanting to do, and we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah.
We'll put email information and contact information below. I'd love to come out and see the shop. First of all, San Diego is one of my favorite, if not my favorite town anywhere. I'd love to come out sometime and see the place. I can't picture 18 artists are split between two shops.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
Okay, got you. It just in my mind I was like, it sounds like a giant place. But
Yeah, no, it's reasonable. Not everyone works on every day.
Yeah.
And if you walk in, it's it's like a regular shop.
Yeah.
But ultimately, yeah, we do have a lot of people involved.
Do you have walk-in artists there?
Yeah. I keep always have a few younger guys that are coming up, and then I've got it's just like a team. I've got young guys that are coming up that handle our walk-ins and overflow from the senior guys. I've got my mid-range guys that have did that for a few years, and now they're starting to get kind of booked. And then I got my seniors, which are just 1 year-long waiting list or whatever they are. And they, doing their thing. So
Do you bring guests through very often?
All the time.
Yeah.
Another reason I built the second shop was because of that, because of the amount of friends that want to come out and work with me, and just acquaintances and all that. We didn't have room. I mean, the shop's packed to the gills, and we have to tell great tattooers, sorry, you can't work here this weekend, and they're going down the street. I'm like, that sucks. So the new shop, we maintain a permanent 1 to 2 stations are always kind of left open to accommodate, and we have a lot of guests coming through.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I don't want you to miss your massage, so I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you alone. Check if you're in San Diego, check out Guru Tattoo. They have some walk-in time. If you're interested in getting tattooed by Aaron, reach out. We'll have his contact information. If these guys don't drop the ball and not put it down there, that guy specifically. Man, it's an honor. Thanks a lot, dude.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. TattooImprovement.com. Sign up. Get daily recipes and nudes of Scott. Have a good one.
Right on.
Thanks.